Welcome back to the next part of the multi-part series on how to play Steel Division 2 1v1 maps. In this episode, we're going to be looking at Ilomantsi, one of the Finnish DLC maps that many people really dislike. So, what we're going to do in this video is like we did it with everything else. We'll start on the red side, and then we'll go on the blue side. So with that said, let's start out on the left-hand side of the map here, where this part of the map, you'll have some very commanding positions to overlook the blue side, but it can also be very difficult to win on the side of the map. Now, where on this side of the map is it really commanding, and where do you have some good lines of sight? Well, when you look at this far left flag right here, it's in a really bad spot for you, as you have to come across a bridge here and drive up a road. But if you can get positions up here on the hill, you can cut off your opponent's supply line. Another good way to cut off your opponent's supply line, as yours is covered mainly here by just the trees, your opponent can get something up in here, but you should already have something to contest that. So some good lines of sight that aren't right here is obviously down here in these tree lines here. You have to be up on the coastline, and then this hill right here is extraordinarily good at cutting off that bridge, as you can see there with the flag, and your opponent's Y juncture right here for getting reinforcements to this flag. So abuse the lines of sight that you have right here on the hill here, and the hill right here in the tree line. Even here, if you want to not open yourself up to fire from over here, you can set a tank right here and just strictly cover the bridge, and then right here as well. So just play with the line of sight tool over here and you'll have a pretty good job. Typically what I like to do when I have this side of the map, I try to hold this flag and I leave this flag alone because it's hard to get to. Now let's move over to the next flag and more towards the middle of the map. So what we have here is another extraordinarily good hill to set guns up on, to shoot down into the base of the hill and the little valley down here. But the issue with it is when you try to come and hold your flags here, as you can see, this flag is realistically on an island because you're going to have to drive down this long, winding, curvy road to get to this flag. So let's say hypothetically you get some units to this flag on the start of the game. They're going to be on their own until you can link up there and cut your opponent's road off here and protect the line of sight on this road, because your opponent's going to be setting infantry, anti-tank guns up in the trees here and here. Back here possibly to stop tanks from coming down this road. There's going to be a tank up here probably if you're trying to push this way to stop whatever you have here. Definitely going to be tanks or something like that coming through the light tree line here that's going to contest this farmstead in your road right here. So this flag you're probably going to lose off the start. So when you're fighting over the middle here, some key lines of sight and positions to take. As we talked about, this line of sight here is key to taking this flag here. And then this little tree line right here is very defensive, very good, but your opponent will probably assume correctly that you're going to put something there. So whatever you put there, make sure you either protect it or be okay with losing it at any time. Now, just lining up on the hill line itself is more obvious as you don't have any cover, but you can change up where you set your position up. You can set it at back here, further back on the hill, so you just hit the mouth of the tree lines here. Same here, you can try to set up here and cover your flank with the lines of sight. Just play around with it, because if your opponent comes through here and you're sitting right here, you're open to the cone of arc right here that can come in and hit you. If you set it up more a little like right here, you have less lines of sight from that cone where it can hit you. So those are some key positions. If you notice here in the town, there is a church, but I wouldn't really use this for recon. I would just walk your recon guy down here in the tree line or try to get him in a good little building up here, as the lines of sight in the buildings are pretty poor. This one's pretty good, but I would usually just, if you want to put recon on the hill, try to keep it in the trees down here. So to take this flag, these flags here, you're going to need to win this forest fight, cut the reinforcements off from here, force your opponent to come down this road. Because when you zoom out strategically, there's only one supply road that comes down for these flags on this road here. This supply line here will only come down this bridge unless your opponent, which they probably won't do this, unless your opponent takes the time to set up a motorcade here with a bunch of vehicles and then move them this way, down this way, and then micro them up to the front. More than likely, that's not going to happen. So your goal should be to cut the bridge off, take the forest here, push into this forest, and then try to bully your opponent who's going to be fighting right here while covering your flank from counterattacks coming down this road. Now, moving on to the right side of the map, as this side of the map is just dead space thanks to this lovely lake right here. This is going to be a key part to fight over because you have so many flags that are so readily accessible to your opponent if they take this tree line right here. So how are we going to fight for this position? Well, it's going to be important to know that your opponent can get lines of sight over your roads right here. So something we'll touch on when we're looking at the blue side, but this is critical to understanding how to take this point. You need to know where you can get attacked when you're trying to maneuver into position to take the flags. So off the start, a very key engagement is getting into these trees here. If you get into these trees and you take this forest right here, your opponent can't flank you. They can't come out this way to come down and try to get into this tree line. They can't sit in the tree line here, cut this road off, and then have lines of sight onto this road. But the reason it's key to get into this tree line in the first engagement and hold it and win is because if you don't, your opponent is safe up here on the hill. If you have units in the trees right here, you can shoot at whatever's right here. If you have units right here, you can shoot at whatever's right here. The only one that you'll be kind of out of range for is this line of sight, but this is a very poor line of sight compared to like right here or right here. So you have to win this engagement here. So when you're pushing up here, just know that if your opponent has quick vehicles, they can hit you. They try to just be really aggressive and just try to slam into your flank here. As well as right here, your opponent can be more defensive and cover this road right here. So when you're coming into the trees here, know that you need to be coming in from the light edge right here into the green tree line because your opponent will try to cut anything off down this road. That means your opponent's going to also be coming in from this side right here to meet you. But you do have some good lines of sight on this road here. If you get a nice little light tank, anti-tank gun, a IG setup, you can cut the road off as well as hit the hill right here, as you can see with the lines of sight. Also a great spot for recon. If you manage to get a recon unit up here, it's a great place to see tank emplacements up here and here as well. And you can deal more effectively with artillery and the prepared positions that your opponents can be setting up on the two hills here. So that left-hand forest right there is key to taking off the start, but also holding this forest right here is key as well, and taking this one. So the best way to do this is get your really good close quarters infantry and vet them up. Having veterancy in this area is really important because if you're going to be fighting over this area and contesting it a lot, your opponent's going to bring in some more firepower in the forms of indirect fire. So artillery and off-map, and then even planes will come in and try to bomb you and get you out of this green forest here to push you back from these two flags, because this is your opponent's easiest spot to push right here, because these two flags are readily accessible, and you usually will get this one on the blue side from just influence on the map. So getting vetted, having the 2-star, 3-star veteran senior units here is crucial because of two reasons. One, the ability to take firepower like indirect fire and planes and just high explosives on your infantry. And two, being able to outright beat your opponent's infantry with your own. The other key is knowing that this is a jungly area. Think about it like a MOBA, and like you have junglers and stuff. That's what your bazooka teams, Resvedka, Panzerschrecks are going to be in this. You're going to have Resvedka, Panzerschrecks, bazooka teams littered all over the place here to deal with light vehicles, as light vehicles are king in this area because they're really good at dealing with infantry, your SPWs, your BA-20s. They're all just good for putting down machine gun fire, autocannon fire, light howitzer fire to try to kill infantry units, suppress them, whittle them down. So keep an eye out for anti-tank rifles and for bazookas trying to snipe your tanks or your light vehicles. Now, good lines of sight here is obviously right here. You just completely cover the road coming into this little gully right here. Over here seems like a good spot, only really if you have like opponent units sitting here. It's also a good spot if you get like a light tank to stop maneuver that are trying to jump from here to here or at a diagonal angle here. But cutting across from this tree line to here, just using this forest and this forest to cut off any maneuvering and assaults into your forest here is the best. So if you kind of look at it, you have like a unit here, and unit here. You kind of have a triangle getting set up. So you have like a right here and then a little point right here. So you have like 3 points of lines of sight all interlocking pretty much to cover your opponent's movement. So you can hit this point right here from here, hit it from here. And this point right here is key. That's why I said this forest is so important, because if you have a unit right here cutting off your opponent's maneuvering abilities in this little open area between the trees, you're going to be anchoring with this unit as it can support both units here with their lines of sight. So keep that in mind. Now, that's basically it for this side of the map. It's just from the red side, you're going to have to be extraordinarily aggressive on the right because when you get up onto the hill here, obviously you cut off your opponent's spawn. You get into positions right here. You cut off the road here. You start digging in the hill here. It's going to be really hard for your opponent to dig you out just because there's so much cover. Bazookas will do really well on the hill here if tanks come over the top. So it really forces your opponent to either clear out your bazookas and then send the tanks in, or assault it with infantry and artillery support, or use airplanes to try to get you off the hill here. So bum rushing this flank is usually how you win as red. Now we're going to go and look at it from the blues perspective. Now we're going to start out over here on the right as we started with over here on the left with the red. So let's look at it from the blue perspective. Now you can lose this flag pretty easily. Like I said, if you don't take care to get units in here and up here, because your opponent can set tanks up here and AT guns in the trees here to cut off your reinforcement road. That's why getting a good little position right here with some ability from a machine gun or an IG or an AT gun to fight and shoot back on the opposite side of the little river here is really important, as well as getting some flame and anti-infantry, like infantry units, as weird as that sounds, like Tanko Desaniki, flamethrowers, Storm Pioneers, stuff like that, to hold these trees here. So it says, hey, if you're going to take this, you're going to have to really try to take it, because my units here are meant to kill your units and stop them from taking it. Because if you hold this hill right here, you get AT guns set up that can overlook the opponent's road right here. And if you're able to do that and get into good positions here, you're going to be able to maneuver down this road here and threaten this flag, as you're pretty masked right here. And most people won't take the time to set up anti-tank guns and infantry units in this little part of the map right here, as usually it's not seen as a very important spot to fight over. So keep that in mind. Now, another very important line of sight on this part of the map is going to be taking out the anti-tank guns and tanks in these trees here. So let's look at some lines of sight. Right here, this is a very dominating line of sight for a tank because it's a light tree line, completely cuts the bridge off. Obviously, right here is a good counter anti-tank gun emplacement, but that means your opponent's going to have to be on the very edge here and not back here. Also, right here is okay, but it kind of gets cut off, so that's going to be your hardest line of sight to cut off. Now, as for this position here, it's very good at cutting this off, but sometimes when you see the line of sight tool to tell you, like, hey, the edge of the forest there is in range, it really isn't, so just be careful with that. As for this tree line, honestly, any part of this tree line cuts that off for the most part. But right here is key at cutting off this road right here. Stick an anti-tank gun, a tank just right here. You can completely cut off your opponent's supply line right here into these three flags. Now, like I said before, it's crucial for the red side to take this forest here. That's why it's crucial for blue to take this forest here, because if red takes it, it's a nice anchor to cover their supply line. Now there's a gap right here, but they don't have to worry about this tree line right here being the threat, because this is a smaller threat than this whole tree line right here. So for blue, very similar. You're going to want to get your best infantry units to take the forest here that you can afford. Tanko Desaniki are great for it. Flamethrower troops supported by Panzer Grenadiers are great for it. Vetted, preferably. Pioneers, really good at it. And if you take that forest, you don't have to worry so much about this flag here, and definitely won't have to worry about this flag. You take this forest here, your opponent's going to have to go through this forest to get to this flag and this flag. So whatever you do, take this forest right here. Now, when you're going to defend this forest and this flag here, a very good way to get tanks up into the positions here is have them come down this road and just drive out in the open, get into this tree line here. Don't try to run and risk it and try to get into here. Your opponent could be rushing stuff up, have off map, trying to hit the bridge. Take it nice and slow. Just get up here, have some supporting infantry with you if you're worried about your opponent hitting this. If it's like a, say, 20th Panzer Grenadier, Ski Jaeger, something with really good A-phase off map, just take it slow. You are already in a good position. It's a better position for you to begin with. The geography is on your side, and then use and abuse this tree line right here to cover the road. So that's another position you're going to have to contend for as the red side, as I said before, because your opponent's tanks are going to be sitting in here, and I recommend you put tanks here. Now, probably the most sneakiest line of sight on this map that I know of is right here. If you just have your tank sitting right here, it's completely secure from any anti-tank guns. If you have infantry on the flanks, you don't have to worry about bazookas, and you just completely stop that road. Say that you're a scumbag playing 16th or 21st Panzer and you buy King Tiger, or you're a scumbag playing 97th and you have off-map hitting the road there and you have an IS-1 or 2 sitting there. Don't got to worry about it. You just got 3 flags right here pretty much. So that's a really deadly spot here just to cut that road off, and this little forest right here as well. If you manage to get this line of sight here, and the lines of sight from here and here, you can just make short work of the flags right here. So we're going to move more to the left side of the map now. And we talked about a lot of the positions here before, but this hill right here is going to be your anchor. If you can get your opponent off the base of the hill, take this flag and keep the fighting right here, you're going to win this match, because you'll have this flag, these these 3 flags, and then probably this one here. That'll get you just double tick in to victory. You'll get this flag too. Definitely have a double tick then, depending, because this is a little out of the reach sometimes. Same with this one, depending on the flanks going. But usually you'll get this flag, these 3, and this flag. That'll get you to victory really quick. So the goal here, set up on the hill, push your opponents from the base of the hill. How do we do that? Well, as I said before, use the lines of sight. Cut off your opponent's ability to maneuver up to the front using this tree line here. Even this tree line here, I said it's a little weaker, but you're able to cut this tree line off. You cut off the road a little bit if there's tanks sitting there. This tree line is really good right here, cutting the road off, setting up tanks right here to come out and push up the side here, come back to cover the road. As for right here as well, you get a line of sight on the road here. Pushing even further forward, that line of sight increases. So just use the lines of sight on this hill. They're very, very good. As well, there's this line of sight right here. You can just set a tank right here, and it cuts off the road as well. And this is probably your safest line of sight. It's mainly because it's literally the road there. It's going to be hard for your opponent to hit it with anti-tank guns or anything. So say like a Panzer IV, an SU-57, something lighter that has a good gun, really good to put here. So how do we hold the base of the hill? Well, as I said before, your opponent's going to be trying to push through this light forest here and this green forest here. So getting good position set up like out here in the open to cut off the lines of supply here, and any maneuvering going on in this field is really key. Getting good infantry into this forest immediately is key, as well as a good infantry unit to anchor right here, and some guys to cover the road right here. So you cover that road right there, you cut off both road junctures and both flags. So holding this line of sight, this line of sight, this line of sight here, and this line of sight here are all extraordinarily important. And another really, really key position here is holding this little tree line right here, mainly because if you hold right here where you can cover this line right here for the tree line, they can't set up anything to cut off your movement in this forest right here. You force them to start engaging you right here so you can flank right here and use this forest, cover its flank to stop this road. So really what you want to do as blue is mask your movement in this tree line over into this forest here, because most of the time when you're trying to rush down this road right here to get into here, you're going to get hit from the flank. Like we talked about, like here and here, there's going to be guys in here, there's going to be guys here, there's going to be guys here, might even be a guy back here depending on what your opponent's trying to do. So really you want to stop anything from shooting you from right here to come in and flank into the woods right here. So say that all goes according to plan and you take these 2 flags. All you need to do now is set up a good little tank position right here and around here, just depending on what line of sight you like the most, and you just cut off these roads. Getting some artillery is out is good. So getting some artillery out is good. You can start suppressing any anti-tank gun positions, but generally you're going to want to defend here. Get this flag, keep them off the base of the hill, just force them to funnel in, because they're going to be trying to rush these 3 flags, because if they get this hill, it's a really valuable position, but it's extraordinarily hard to get. So overall, who has the better position on this map? Blue in this situation definitely does. Red is at an extreme disadvantage, mainly because of these flags right here. They're very hard to get to and be like, oh cool, yeah, there's like a hill right here, but the hill doesn't matter, as there's a tree line here, a tree line here, and a tree line here. You can just stick units behind it and threaten the front line and just keep funneling infantry into these woods. There's no threat on Blue's supply line in the middle of the map. The only area where there's a threat on Blue's supply line is if they lose the right side of the map, or they right here on the left side of the map. So where the lion's share of the flags are, Blue has nothing to worry about in terms of where its flag placement is. Even more so, like, you're never getting this flag from Blue and you're never holding this flag from Blue. Hypothetically, you honestly can get this flag from Red, just mainly because you can start killing units that are coming in from their spawn. But if Blue lets you take this flag with their geographical positioning, they've already lost the game for a multitude of other reasons. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This map kind of sucks, but if you want to get better at 1v1s and learn how to play with bad geography, play the bad maps, except Gora. Never play Gora, just because it's a mindless bridge spam. This map here is really good at forcing you to think differently and how you're going to use your units, and taking engagements that you're forced to take, or even changing it up a little bit. Maybe sometimes pushing the middle as red could be something that works for you too. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to put in the pinned comment again a link to Helljumper's video. I forgot to put it out immediately with the last video, but I want more people to go and watch it. It helps you deal with heavy tanks, and it'll help people in 10v10s and team games generally. So thank you guys for watching, and do take care.